Start by removing the valve core and letting the air out of the tire. Remove any valve stem retainers or nuts off the valve stem at this time. Next, you can remove the bead lock fastener. Make sure the bead lock's not binding against the tire bead. Now press down on the sidewall of the tire. This will put the tire bead in the drop center of the rim. Work your way around the tire on both sides, pushing the tire away from the rim lip. You may want to use tire lube to make removal of the tire easier. Using a tire iron, pull the tire bead over the rim lip. Push down on the opposite side of the tire while prying as shown. With the space made from the first tire iron, insert the second one. Now, using both pry bars, pry the bead over the rim lip. Now work your way around the tire, removing small sections of the bead. You'll have difficulty at first if you try to remove too much of the bead at one time. When you get one bead off the rim, remove the tube. With the tube out, remove the bead lock. You may have to move a rim band to get the bead lock out. Now, using the same procedure as before, pull the lower bead over the rim lip. With half of the bead over the rim, you should be able to remove the rest of the tire by hand. When installing your tire, be sure the tire is going to be rotating in the proper direction. Use tire lube on the first bead you're going to install. Get as much of the bead installed by hand as possible before using the tire irons. Now insert both pry bars where the bead meets the rim. Holding one pry bar stationary, use the other to install the bead. Now make sure your rim band covers all the spoke nipples and the hole lines up where the valve stem goes through. Now reinstall the bead lock. It goes underneath the rim band. With the bead lock in, install the nut a couple turns. Don't tighten it all the way at this time. If reusing the old tube, be sure to check for leaks before installing it. It's helpful to install a nut on the stem to keep it in place. Press the tube all the way into the tire without twisting it. Be sure to use some tire lube and start installing the bead at the opposite side of the bead lock. At this point, be extra careful you're not pinching the tube while installing the bead. Insert the tire iron just enough to grab the rim. Carefully work your way around the wheel as shown. When one iron gets close to the bead lock, start working your way around the other side of the rim. At this point, it's important to make sure that the tire bead is still in the drop center of the rim. Carefully pry the last section of bead over the rim. As the bead slides over the rim, make sure the bead lock is pressed up inside the tire. The bead lock should be moving freely inside the tire. Reinstall the valve core and air the tire up. Check the tire sidewall for recommended seating pressure. Make sure the tire is seated properly on both sides around the entire rim. If part of the tire isn't seated properly, you may have caught part of the tube in between the rim and the tire. Last, you can torque your bead lock, tighten your valve stem retainer, and set your tire pressure. Tire pressure should be around 15 psi, depending on track conditions.